Hi and welcome to another episode of LPPTV. I'm Claire Brummell, the Relationist, creator of Love, Polarity and Passion.com. And today I'm going to share with you that 1 + 1 in a relationship doesn't always add up to 2. In fact, interestingly, when it comes to relationships, 1 + 1 can sometimes add up to 0, it can sometimes add up to 2, and sometimes it can add up to way more than 2. Now, what on earth am I talking about? Everybody knows 1 + 1 = 2. Well, not necessarily, because what sometimes happens in relationships is if people are pulling in two different directions, then one person is going one in this way, the other person is moving one in that direction, they end up creating 0, because 1 this way plus 1 that way actually ends up 0. They end up not going anywhere because they're moving in opposite directions, not necessarily realizing that they're on the same team, they're on the same side, and if they want to make some progress, they want to move the same way in the same direction. Now, then you have the second scenario, which is what we would expect, which is that if you have 1 + 1 and they're moving in the same direction, it equates to 2. And this is what happens when two people are both kind of showing up, they're being independent, and they're both doing their part. That's where you create this 1 + 1 = 2 situation. But where the real magic happens in relationships is where 1 + 1 adds up to way more than 2, where one person is doing their bit and another person is doing their bit. But what's interesting is that the sum of the two coming together is greater than the total of the parts. And I had an experience with this really recently that really highlighted this to me, and I wanted to share it with you because I really wanted you to understand how it is that two people coming together can actually create something that is greater than the sum of the parts. Now, you might have noticed a slight difference in me in the last few videos that I've recorded, and the reason for this is that over the last month, my partner and I decided that we would try a new eating plan. We'd both put on a little bit of weight recently, a little bit more than we felt comfortable with. In fact, since arriving in Costa Rica, there were some extraordinary restaurants around here, and we had overindulged a little bit. We'd eaten a little bit too much, we'd drunk a little bit too much, we'd ended up indulging in dessert a little bit too much, and as a result, some of the clothes that I actually brought out here with me didn't fit me anymore. In fact, this skirt that I'm wearing today is one of them. This didn't fit me a month ago, and I just thought I wanted to get back to a position where I felt comfortable and where I could actually wear and enjoy the clothes I brought with me. And one way that I have found that has really helped me when I've not been eating so well and I wanted to get back to a more healthy way of eating is to do some juicing. And that's where you put fresh fruits and vegetables into a juicer and you juice them. When I've done it in the past, I've done it for a couple of days, maybe 3 or 4 days, up to probably 5 or 6 has probably been the longest that I've ever done. But what I found is it's a really great way to cleanse my body and to get me back onto an even keel to start a more healthy eating plan. And I shared this with my partner and he wanted to support me. And he said to me, well, if you want to do some juicing, would it help you and support you if I did it with you? Now, I know juicing isn't really his thing, but I was honest with him. I said, actually, it would be really helpful, not just having the support of doing it with me, but actually not having the smells of other food in the house when I'm trying to juice because I'm not eating food. So he agreed that he was going to do it to support me. He was going to do it with me. And he said to me that he'd seen a documentary which was all about juicing and he wanted to share it with me, and he wanted to know was I interested in watching it, and I said yep, let's watch it, maybe get some inspiration, who knows, maybe some new recipes, let's give it a go. So we sat down to watch this documentary, and this documentary took 8 people to a retreat centre for 28 days, and they did this 28-day juicing plan. And the results they experienced were phenomenal. What was really interesting was that it wasn't just the weight loss, that was almost a side effect. What was amazing was that the difference that people had in their health. People who'd been in pain for years weren't in pain anymore. People who had suffered with conditions like colitis and Crohn's disease and diabetes and sleep apnea weren't experiencing the symptoms anymore. And about 3/4 of the way through watching the documentary, I turned to my partner and I said, you know what? I kind of fancy giving the 28 days a go. This seems really good. It seems like there's so many benefits to it. It'd be great for our health. Why don't we give it a go? What do you reckon? Are you up for it? And he turned back to me and he said, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So we decided that's what we were going to do. We decided we were going to juice for 28 days. Now, interestingly, when I've done juicing in the past, it's not always been the easiest thing to do. And luckily this plan is fully balanced and they look at all your nutritional needs. It's not a starvation diet. They want to make sure that it's sustainable what you're doing and that you're actually giving your body what it needs. So we got the app, we downloaded the recipes and we downloaded all of the shopping lists and everything so that it was nice and easy for us. What was really interesting though is that at the beginning, I know full well that my partner was doing it to support me because I'd said I wanted to give it a go and he wanted to support me on my journey. What was really interesting is that I actually know that for a long time he's been wanting to lose some weight. And as we started doing the program, we started to realise actually he was losing a lot of weight. And I got to about halfway through the program, and although I wasn't hungry by any stretch of the imagination, I did miss eating. And I was getting to the point where I was struggling. I was really struggling quite badly halfway through. But I then realised that actually he was doing really well on it. He was losing a lot of weight, and I decided that I wanted to do it as much for him and to support him in doing it as I was for doing it myself. Now what's interesting is that both of us have done juicing in the past, and neither of us have actually lost a huge amount of weight. We've done pretty well. But what was interesting is that by him doing it to support me and me doing it to support him, it was no longer just about us. And the results, we weighed ourselves this morning. Today is the first day that we've eaten in 28 days, and like solid food. And what's interesting is that when we weighed ourselves this morning, we have collectively lost over 47 pounds, which is over 21 kilos in 28 days, which is really quite extraordinary, especially when you're considering that you're getting a good nutritional balance. And what we both realised was actually that what we'd been able to do by supporting each other was we'd actually created a bigger result than either of us would have done if we'd done it separately on our own. It would have been harder, it wouldn't have been as much fun. We made a game of it, we made it fun, we made it enjoyable, we had a laugh about things. He supported me when I had my challenging moments, and I supported him when he had his challenging moments. And together we got to the end, and we're now in a place where we're looking great, we're feeling great, and we're actually inspiring lots of other people to start the juicing plan as well. Now, this is not about juicing. What I want to share with you is that if each of us had done this plan separately on our own, I'm not sure that we actually would have been as successful. We would have created as much of an impact, as much of a change in our health as we did by doing it together. He inspired me to do more exercise while I was doing it. I inspired him to do more exercise. We did the exercise together. We made it fun. And so by both of us, although we both showed up and did our piece, we weren't just doing it for ourselves, we were doing it for each other as well. And that actually inspired us to end up doing more. And the results we got as a result were significant. Now, this is not the only time and the only place in which I've experienced this. But what's really interesting is when you get two people who are whole and of themselves, accepting themselves, loving themselves, appreciating themselves as they are, and you get those two people coming together and working together in the same direction, not just for themselves, but for each other as well, it ends up creating this multiplication. It ends up creating this kind of exponential curve where the two of you added together would have done this. But what's interesting is that when you actually put the two of you and you multiply together, it does this, and you end up creating more than you would have done as two individuals. And that's what I'd like you to help me by sharing today, and I'd like you to help me sharing this by tweeting the love. And what I'd like you to tweet is the relationships where 1 + 1 equals way more than 2 are where the magic is. The relationships where 1 + 1 equals way more than 2 are where the magic is. Because this is where the real value in relationships comes. This is where people start to experience the reason that people want to connect and get into a relationship. They want to share their lives with somebody who doesn't just come and bring what they've got, where each of them enhances each other's experience. You get to share and enjoy more together than you would have done as two separate individuals. And that's where the magic of relationship is where it's no longer doing it just for yourself, but you're doing it for your partner. You're not just pulling in the same direction, but you've got extra incentive, you've got extra motivation, and you go that little bit further than you would have done just for yourself. That's when 1 + 1 equals up to way more than 2. And that's the kind of relationship where magic happens. Now, did you enjoy today's video? If so, I'd love for you to share your comments. Have you had an experience of this? I'd love for you to share with me, have you had an experience where you and your partner have no longer just done things for yourselves, you've done things for each other as well, and the results have been far greater than they would have been if you'd just been doing it for yourself or by yourself? Have you had an experience of the 1 + 1 in one direction plus 1 in the other direction equals 0, where you're both making the effort, but it doesn't feel like you're actually getting anywhere? Have you had an experience where, or would you like to know how to have the experience where 1 + 1 equals way more than 2, where you can actually take things to a new level and you can enhance each other's experience and enhance what you're able to create together by bringing an extra quality, by bringing, not just doing it for yourself, but doing it for your partner as well, where you bring the two together and they create more than the sum of the parts. Maybe today's video brought up some questions for you. Maybe you've got some questions about how we did the juicing, or how it is that you can bring this quality into your relationship. If so, please post your comments and questions underneath. I know from experience that when you share your experiences, there will be somebody watching, there will be somebody reading it, where you sharing your experience will help them with their own experience. So please share your questions and comments underneath. Did you enjoy today's video? If so, then please subscribe to us here on YouTube. And if you've enjoyed today's video, I'd love for you to share this with other people. It's really important for people to understand that what we're aiming for in our relationships is not 1 + 1 equals 2, it's 1 + 1 equals way more than 2. So I'd love for you to share this via Facebook, Google+, Twitter, however it is that you'd like to share it. Share it with someone that you know that could benefit from hearing the information today. And if you enjoyed today's video, why not come and subscribe to updates over at LovePolarityandPassion.com, where you get every episode of LPPTV sent directly to your inbox, as well as some articles and a couple of other surprises along the way as well. I hope you've enjoyed today's video as much as I've enjoyed sharing it with you. I can't wait to speak to you again really soon. And as always, in the meantime, remember to be the love you want in your life. I'll catch you next time.